Hi and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will talk about Dehancer. It's a great film emulation plugin and I will show you a quick overview of all the features they implemented in the plugin and how to use them. And afterwards I will show you some look breakdowns where I built an output LUT with Dehancer. So let's get started. First off, let's head to this shot. This was shot on a Blackmagic Pocket. Let's go to our Open Effects and let's call up Dehancer. Just drag and drop it into the first node and off we go. Here we have all our settings and features, and as you can see there are lots of them. So let's get started on the input. Here you set your source. In our case, in the camera, you also have the ability to work within ACES or after a Rec 709 conversion or with footage that wasn't even shot in log. So in this case, we take choose camera. As you can see, you have a variety of different cameras from ARRI all the way to DJI and Sony and so on. So we have Blackmagic, and now we can choose our camera. It's the Pocket 4K, and as format, of course, it was film. So as you can see, this is our input and the image changed according to our input. Here we have the chance to do some exposure correction down or up. But normally I do this just in a node prior where I do balancing with offset controls or stuff like that. So I don't use this too much. Here is the menu that's doing all the heavy lifting. So here we have several different film emulations. We have more experimental ones like old Agfa stocks or the Empro type and stuff like that. You see it's really a heavy look. But we have several different slide films and negative film stock from the stills photography world. And of course, we have our beloved Kodak Vision 3 stocks, 200T, 250D, 500T and 50D. So let's choose the 250D because this is a daylight shot in the woods. So probably if we would have filmed on actual film, we would use the same stock. What's really great about Dehancer is you have the ability to push and pull. And as you can see, this setting is not only changing the brightness of the image, but also shifts the color. So you can really say, okay, I love it if it's pulled 2 stops or if it's pushed 2 stops. For now, just set it to somewhere around here. And another great feature is that you can enable and disable all your menus so you see before and after. In the next one, you can expand your black and white point, or you can even say analyze so it does it automatically for you. But I'm pretty happy with this right here. So next off, this is the print menu. And I really love this feature because here you can say how much tonal contrast you want in your image and how much color density you want. Just pull up the scopes in here so you can see it a bit better. And I really like this feature, so you essentially create your own print profile, and that's a really awesome and nice feature, and it gives you some really nice looking images. Especially the color density is a really great tool and gives you some nice cinematic looking images. So this image is a bit too sepia. So what I usually do before I go into look design here, I go in the node prior. I use the offset controls with the help of my keyboard shortcuts and I balance this image out a bit. So I put in some blue like so and maybe reduce the red a bit. So something like this. Yeah, that's looking better. And I can even go in here and say I want some more saturation, I think, and maybe pull the gain a bit up so brightens everything up. Yeah, that's a way better starting point. So now we can go back in here and do our look design, but I think that's looking pretty good already without doing much to the image. So as you can see, it's really working nicely and you easily get some nice looking images with the help of Dehancer and some simple balancing. So let's go on. Here's another tool. It's called the color head, and this enables you to do some more complex transforms to the image on the yellow-blue axis, magenta green and cyan red. So basically this is a cyan magenta yellow, so it's based on the CMYK color model and not the RGB one we have in here. Also you can gang all the sliders, but what I normally do, I use them separately. So if I say, okay, we want some more green in it, but also some more cyan. And when I use the color head, normally I switch my scopes to the vector scope, because in here I see the axis a bit better where I want to shift my image to. So as you can see here, I see the axis way better if you go from green to magenta and also from yellow to blue. I really like working with the vector scope when I'm doing these adjustments. Bit more magenta in it, so I center this out, maybe some more cyan, so it gets a bit colder. Great, and what you can do here, you can say you want to preserve your exposure when you're doing these adjustments and how much impact you want, or you don't want to preserve the exposure, then you get some more density into the colors, as you can see, like preserve exposure, not preserving, and I think somewhere around here looks good. Next off we have the film grain. I have to say I really love the grain of Dehancer. It gives you a nice looking image, and I will link you a video tutorial from the team itself in the article part of this tutorial, where they explain in depth why their grain is looking good and why it's looking so naturalistic and organic. It's really interesting, and if you want to learn more about grain, I highly recommend to check this one out too. So essentially what you can do here, you can enable and disable it like with all the tools. Then you can set your grain size. Let's zoom in a bit more in here. So now you can see it better. You can increase the size or decrease the size, the amount of grain. Obviously I have to overdo it a bit now so you can see it better on the streamed image. And the really awesome feature in here is the film resolution, because normally when I add grain manually, I always blur the image a bit, then add the grain, and afterwards I even sharpen it a bit with the grain, because the grain sits better within the image if I used like a scanned grain plate, because normally your image is really sharp and your image shouldn't be sharper than your grain. That's the reason why I blur it. And you have this feature in here, so you can set your film resolution to super sharp to super blurry, and your grain changes accordingly, so everything fits together nicely. That's a really awesome feature and I love it. So somewhere around here looks good, I guess. Maybe that's too much, somewhere around here. And furthermore, you can adjust your shadows, midtones and highlights, but I'm most of the time happy with the default settings in here, but you can change it if you want to. And here's another great feature where you can set your grain to be really colorful or not colorful at all. And this one even incorporates the film profile you've chosen in here. So it's really well thought through, and I think they did an awesome job with incorporating it even with the film profile. So default one is fine too. What we're still missing when we want to do authentic film emulation is halation, maybe some bloom. Of course we need film breadth and gate width, and we have everything in here. So it's a really great plugin where you have all the tools you need if you want to incorporate every single detail and aesthetic of film into your footage. So let's go on. Enable the halation. And you have a mask mode in here, so you can see what parts of your image you're currently affecting with your settings. Now we are affecting nothing, so maybe change the image a bit just to show you the effect. Add serial before and just pull up the highlights quite a bit. And now let's go back in here and let's see our mask mode now. Still nothing in here, so change the amplify and maybe the scattering a bit. Now if you enable and disable, you see we have some halation in here that works pretty nicely, and you can even say, okay, we don't want the red, but zoom in a bit here more. we don't want the red but another color, or we can say we want a nicer roll-off into the darker parts of the image, and here we can say we want to impact more of the image. So if you go in our mask, you say there we impact even more or nothing at all. So you have really a lot of adjustments you can do to your halation, and if you want to learn more about it, just head to the Dehancer site and they have an awesome tutorial for halation, but also for all their other features in there where they are explaining every single slider in great detail. So next off is bloom, and as you can see, out of the box result looks amazing again. So essentially bloom is blurring all your highlights, so they're not getting too hot, or when they're getting too hot they get blurred, so they look more pleasing to the eye. And that's also a feature we see on a lot of film stocks. So if you go beyond a certain value in the highs, then you're losing a bit of details. All the highs are a bit blurred, and that's normally looking really good. And again, lots of sliders where you can customize the behavior of your bloom. Vignette is pretty self-describing, I guess. And film breath, again, a feature you see when you shoot on film, same with gate weave. And for both of these features, we need to play back our footage to see the effect. And also we can disable the auto zoom if we don't want the image to zoom in. So let's loop our playback and hit play. So as you can see in our waveform here, how it's moving a bit up and down and not so stable. This is our film breath and gate weave. So if we disable this one, you see that's not shifting up and down. And you can see it in the footage too. Alright, that's pretty much it. Last but not least, you also have a false color overlay where you can see all the exposure within your image. And of course you can also use the LUT generator to export all your settings as a LUT, but of course this only works for your input and your color stuff like the emulation and so on, but not for the grain or the halation, so all the temporal and spatial features. But it's great to have it in there too if you want the LUT for onset or stuff like that. And also you have a master slider for how you want to affect your footage with all the things you've done. Alright, that's an overview of the plugin, and now let's go to some of my actual jobs. So this is the same shot, and as you can see I've only did some offset and saturation in here, and I have the Dehancer plugin in here. Actually I used, let's see, a 50D stock in here, and I set my printer profile, color head, and yeah, that's it. And as you can see, really minor corrections, great looking result. Also, I have to admit, I did some custom pipelines in here. So in the group pre-clip level is my denoiser. I added a vignette in here, as you can see, to darken the corners a bit. Here I blurred the image. That's what I told you before. I blurred the image, and I did some grain overlay in here for this job via the layer mixer node in overlay. And afterwards I sharpened the image. So here you see an example how I use scanned grain blades, and also I used my own halation. This is a compound node and fully customizable. This is from my Film Aesthetics Power Grade pack. That's this one in here with the edge detection. Alright, and I think I have another node in here with 0.78 key output, and this is a LUT where I put more density into the image like you see it before and after, and I made this with the help of Color Lab. Alright, so here's another shot. It's from the same film. So it's an indoor with really heavy colors, so you can see without grading and with grading. And I wanted to show this to you so you see the math and all the stuff is really awesome with Dehancer because you don't get some weird clipping and artifacts even with such heavy lit footage. But of course I did some more grading here, so the pipeline is the same, and I used like offset and saturation in here again, and I guess some log grading. Yeah, shadows, I forgot to mention this one. I had this log grading in here too. Then here's some look refinement. I think I changed some hues, hue versus saturation and hue versus luminance, and also some primary grading, gain in here, hue, saturation. It's more of a look refinement, and some more refinements in here, I guess. There's some more gain, back of the gamma and the lift a bit. In here I used a luminance versus saturation curve, and also a saturation versus saturation curve to back off the really poppy colors in here, so they get more neutral, and I backed off all the corrections by 50% by the key output. Here is some more log grading. I guess I adjusted the shadows in here. I added a custom curve in here. Yes, and pulled down the offset after the curve so I get more density. So both of these corrections, so before and after. Now you can see what I mean. Again, Dehancer, same profile as in the shot before. Color Lab, same thing as before, but now without any key output adjustments. And in here, I think I did some more mid-tone and highlight adjustment, saturation adjustment. I used the gain control, but I pushed up the luminance quite a bit, and everything else not too much, so I get the kind of a bit of a bleach bypassy kind of look, and also I reduced the luminance a bit in the gamma. And up front I did some masking and local exposure changes, like lowering the exposure in here, pulling down the highlights really heavily, and adjusted the contrast a bit. I keyed it so it's just present on the higher up parts of the image, of the brighter parts of the image. Yeah, vignette in here brightened the shot, so as you can see, like all this masking and keys before and after. So let's head to another shot. This is from a short film I created with the help of Dehancer again. Again, some masking up front, brightened the actor in here, darkened the windows, vignette, and darkened this part of the image. Then also just some balancing and saturation, log grading for the shadows. In here I adjusted the highlights of the lamps, and this is hue versus saturation curve. I pulled down the reds a bit, I think because of this table here. Yeah, right. And in here I pulled the highlights down, and at the end our film emulation stuff. So let's see what we have here. I don't know what, I think this was for another shot. Some looks in here, so they changed the image quite a bit. So hue versus luminance curves, hue versus saturation curves, some more saturation overall, pulled down the shadows a bit, and some more offset. And finally in here, Dehancer, I think, yeah, this is our emulation, and I used Kodak Vision 3 500T, so tungsten stop because it's indoors, and I used the color head and did my own print profile and stuff like that again. This was shot on a Arri Alexa in log C. Afterwards I did some custom curves again, yeah, some more S-shaped curve, adjusted the gain a bit. And I think in here I added the grain. Yeah, in here I choose the source as Rec 709 because we did a log to Rec 709 conversion in the first part of the plugin. And in here I just used the grain feature, and yeah, I think also the gate wave feature. I used this one on a separate node because I wanted to have it turned off during grading and just turned it on when I watched through everything. So I already showed it to you here, but if you want to use like the standard Rec 709 LUT from ARRI, do your balancing in here, then you can say, okay, let's add another serial and I want Dehancer on there, but not like film emulation and stuff like that. So you choose a source Rec 709 because you already did your Rec 709 transformation in here. Then disable everything you don't want, and let's say I just want grain, so enable the grain and adjust your grain. That's another great feature you can do with Dehancer if you just want one aesthetic and not everything from the plugin. Yeah, that's it. I have some more stills and insights for you within the article. I hope you enjoyed this review and I hope you liked Dehancer, and just look in the description and in the members discount section of the page. There you find a code where you get minus 10% on Dehancer. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.